So where are we going now?
We are going to the cabin. Yeah.
The cabin?
This place is, we fell in love with it when we started working here. It's like this little hidden spot in the city.
Electronic dance music has always been fertile ground for the blending of musical genres. Canadian DJs Toolman and Bear Witness, collectively known as A Tribe Called Red, combined the sounds of traditional native powwow drum circles with electronic dance music to create something they call Electric Powwow.
We're here.
I was able to sit in with A Tribe Called Red as they started to work on a new batch of music.
So it's a little bit of a tight squeeze getting in here.
At a hard-to-find studio on a residential street in Toronto.
Love to sing.
So how did Tribe Called Red start?
It all grew out of a club night.
A club night?
Yeah. So back in like 2008, a few of us got together in Ottawa. We didn't really know each other all that well, but just came together under the idea that we were all native DJs working in the city and let's throw a party together. The reaction that we got from our community was that you've started something, you've created this space for us, and you have to keep doing it now.
Did you feel pressure in any way?
Not so much well, I mean, there was a really quick realization that we were doing something much bigger than we thought we were. We thought we were just throwing a party and would advertise to our community, but really quickly we realized that it meant a lot more than that. You know, that taking up space within the urban environment as Indigenous people is a difficult thing sometimes. To actually have a community and a culture that is urban and is Indigenous isn't new. We've been here since, you know, these were forts and villages, but our visibility has changed.
Right.
You know, and
you guys are pioneering that.
Well, I mean, I've always said that we're part of a wave. You know, like we threw this party and got told we had to keep doing it by people in the community. So we're always following that wave, not really leading it.
When you're creating new projects, do you keep in mind this cultural landscape, this wave that you're talking about?
I mean, I guess it's finding a balance between those things, you know. Break it down into DJ terms, you're reading the room. Our second album was called Nation to Nation because we were producing it at a time when there was a new movement happening in Canada called I Don't Know More.
A First Nations protest movement is quietly spreading across the country.
First Nations protesters gathered on Parliament Hill once again and in cities.
Indigenous people in Canada all together stood up and said, we're not going to quietly let things happen anymore. There was this huge influx of Indigenous people in Ottawa who came from all over the country to protest. You know, so that album Nation to Nation, it even got its name Nation to Nation because that's what we were calling for. We're calling to have a conversation, a talk with Canada from the Indigenous nation to the settler nation. So, you know, that vibe, everything that was happening got put into the album.
The energy of a protest movement is only one ingredient in their music. A Tribe Called Red uses samples of native drum circles as the basis for almost all of their music. What started off as an experiment, sampling drum sounds from powwow videos they found on YouTube, has turned into a collaboration.
So I was gonna bring this up really quick. I asked them to give me different patterns. So they gave us different patterns that they sing with. So this is a sidestep groove. So it's a sidestep. And then there's like straight.
The very first thing that we ever did with powwow music was just doing a live mashup. And it's because we had a grass dance song that was open at the beginning. So you just had straight singing and you could just loop that and then threw a dubstep instrumental underneath it. You know, it's like finding any other sample, like finding a breakbeat that was like a clean break that was super funky that you could sample, you know, that was isolated. And it's slowly grown into us having this relationship with the drum groups now, where they give us what we need.
So they're sitting off the side of the drum. So it's a stick.
So those drums that you heard, one of those is in almost every song we make.
Yeah.
So what is a drum circle? LA went to Prior Lake, Minnesota to find out.
I met up with Iron Boy, an intertribal drum circle based in Minneapolis. Although they haven't collaborated with a tribe called Red, they've been performing at powwows all over the United States, including what's considered the largest powwow in the world, the Gathering of Nations in New Mexico, where they were crowned champions in the Northern Drum Contest in 2015.
I feel like I'm breathing fast.
A typical Northern drum circle song has a call and response structure, divided into push-ups or verses. The first lead will sing a line, then the group will respond with the chorus. Once the chorus is sung and repeated, the next singer in the circle takes the lead to start the second push-up. Although the sound might feel traditional, the members of Iron Boy write their own music, like this song composed by member Charles Larrabee.
For the most part, I try to visualize the dancers dancing and just talk about their movements. You know, like Shina Akshjehaskaska is talking about the women's long braids when they spin, you can see them flying.
I got chemistry, so learning something new, it happens quick. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
because it
yeah,
seems like
when there's something new and I feel like it's worthy, then I'll send it to the boys. You know?
boom, okay.
And if it clicks, and then we'll stick with it. You know?
This is very similar to a jazz band setting where like, we record the rehearsal, and I'm gonna send it out to all the homies. We listen to it in the car. You know what I'm saying? We driving and then come back and knowing your part. Yeah. Same kind of format.
Basically, when you have a song, you kind of have these basic rules, but you try to bend those rules as much as you can. Like contemporary music is going to usually use a lot of words. Old school is usually straight songs, not many words. Just because of there was a time until up to 1978, everything was outlawed. So really, you kind of see this movement now. A lot of people are moving back towards some of those ways, like using words in their songs and stuff like that, and a lot of language and taking pride in that language.
In 1978, not that long ago, the U.S. government passed the American Indian Religious Freedom Act, which aimed to protect the rights of Native Americans to practice their culture.
It's something that we value, our culture. We value it so much that, we're gonna carry this on until we make our journey. And we're gonna teach as many young people as we can along the way. It's a huge responsibility. This drum here is very, 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 very sacred to us.
Absolutely.
And this represents a grandfather's spirit. The drum takes care of us, we take care of the drum.
Instead of using like air horns or sirens or a lot of electronic music will, we use the calls, powwow calls, hoicha.
Yeah, we got stuff like this.
That we throw in.
So that's like our air horn in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It has the same effect.
Yeah.
Like you're playing to an indigenous audience, like those have the same effect. Like people react to it the same way.
It's so crazy. I get people who hit me up all the time. They're like, "Hey man, do you think you can give me that sound you guys use? Because I'd really like to play it on at a lacrosse game or something like that, like back home." So it's like they want to use that as a goal horn. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's so weird. But that's where we're at right now.
Replacing the air horns and that's just a way of indigenizing the space that we're in.
Yeah, well, we add a ton of other instruments. Anything we get our hands on, really. They're it goes faster, slower.
Tim made a decision early on that he wanted all the risers to be self-made, so it's a lot of stuff that we messed around with in Calgary.
We were in National Music Center in Calgary, and they have just a bunch of synths, like a synth museum, but they allow people to have residencies there. They'll have access to basically to almost every single synth known, even with the legendary Tonto.
This is Tonto, or the original new timbral orchestra. It was created by Malcolm Cecil in the early 1970s. The room-sized multi-timbral polyphonic analog synthesizer was used by many artists, including the Isley Brothers and Stevie Wonder. Only one was ever made, and it now lives in Canada at the National Music Centre in Calgary, Alberta.
I could bring up the OG, actually.
I asked Toolman to break down some of the elements used in a track they were working on.
So I'm just playing the broom. Just added some drums to that. Yeah, so just added.
One more element for the track was found when Member of Canadian Parliament Romeo Saganash delivered a passionate speech on behalf of Indigenous rights to the House of Commons.
Why doesn't the Prime Minister just say the truth and tell the Indigenous peoples that he doesn't give a about their rights?
Watching Indigenous Twitter and Instagram and Facebook explode as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, this is definitely a moment. And I mean, we felt that moment ourselves.
You become a part of it.
Yeah, you want to do something with it because, again, like when we first started making this music, it was to make something that everybody could enjoy and everyone could appreciate, but that would be instantly recognizable and identifiable to Indigenous people. So to take a moment for Indigenous people and then weave it into a song, you know, that's telling our fans that this is for you.
Has there ever been resistance from an older generation that didn't understand the combination of electronic music with powwow, that it's different to them?
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody who's ever really told us that we shouldn't be doing what we're doing, but people who don't necessarily connect with it have always said that they see the relevance of what we're doing because it's connecting with youth. You know, like so many of us didn't grow up having, people that represented us in the media, We all kind of go back to the few little things that were there, seeing Buffy St. Marie on Sesame Street is a huge one, and I think one of the things that we have an opportunity to do is start to, to give that to a younger generation, that we are out here being Indigenous on our own terms, not having to be boxed into something that isn't us. We did a video for our song Suplex about a native wrestler kind of making it on his own terms. Next thing we knew, after that video came out, all these parents were sending in these different photos of their kids who had made their own luchador masks, got them to cut the sleeves off of their jean jackets to look like the wrestler in the video. And so kind of with us dreaming about what it would have been like to have an Indigenous representation that was true to who we were growing up, we had given it to a younger generation just through our imagining it.
In a lot of ways that we make a lot of music that we have to have like a purpose for it. It has to service our community in some shape or form, or else it doesn't make sense to do it for us. That's what drives us to even create and to perform, is just, does it make sense for our community? That's the thing. That's our moral compass that we follow.